Unlock your phone and the apps just keep coming. YouTube, short-form video, games, messages, news, shopping. One flick of a finger and the whole world spills out, so why, the second you hit the bed, does that voice still show up? Now what? Weird, right? It's that feeling where content is everywhere but boredom never leaves. Kind of a modern secret weapon. There's plenty to watch, but you can't pick anything, and the moment you pause, your hand goes hunting for the screen again. You keep feeding it, and somehow you're still hungry. Okay, one more question. 100,000 to 200,000 years ago, no writing, no art galleries, no music apps. When people got bored back then, what did they do? In a world with no notifications and no recommendation algorithm, how long must those nights have felt? The ancient human we picture is usually like this, hunting all day, starving all night. Days off? Not a thing. Survival mode, full-time. Those rough faces from documentaries. Looks like they never even got a second to breathe. But was that really true? Would busy people invent art, flutes, myths? In a day with no room to breathe? Would they carve necklaces and drill holes in bone? This is where common sense starts to wobble. Today we're going to follow the archaeology of boredom, the slightly wild idea that boredom helped push civilization forward. If you clicked in, you were probably a little bored or a little curious. And that curiosity is basically the main character of this story. Spoiler first, ancient humans probably weren't as constantly busy as we think, and that spare time might have done bigger work than we expect. Let's open that blank space. First, let's break the myth. Hunter-gatherers never had a free moment because they were always chasing food. It shows up in textbooks and in our imaginations. Spear in hand, run, make fire, run again. Leisure feels like a luxury. Anthropologist Marshall Sahlins gave it the opposite name, the original affluent society. Not because wants were endless, because needs were few, so they were easy to meet. Affluence might not mean having a lot. It might mean wanting less. That's the flip. Look at foraging groups like the Kung of the Kalahari. Estimates put food-getting labor at roughly 15 to 20 hours a week. Just hearing the number makes you tilt your head. That's like 2.5 days a week spent securing food. Stack that against a modern work week and it hits hard. There's even a joke that hunters had it easier than bankers. Sure, it's a joke, but jokes stick for a reason. At the very least, they were always busy starts to shake. Of course, there are pushbacks. Add cooking, travel, and tool care, and the hours climb. Critics have said that for a long time. The number changes depending on how wide you draw the circle around work. So this figure isn't absolute truth. It's more like a hint about direction. Still, the core message holds. Ancient humans weren't machines locked onto survival every minute. They probably weren't living at the tip of a blade all day long. It's fair to imagine empty pockets of time in between. Spare time means room for boredom, and that blank space mattered more than it looks. Civilization may not have come only from busy hands. Bored hands might have touched civilization too. About 75,000 years ago, Blombos Cave in South Africa. Perforated shell beads showed up there. Small objects, big story. Not stone, not metal little shells that came from the sea. Not a knife. Not a spear. Ornaments for the neck or the body. As a survival must-have, the explanation gets fuzzy. These weren't tools for hunger. They were closer to tools for showing who you were. They couldn't fill a stomach, but they could make a presence visible. Researchers read them as signs of symbolic behavior, a way of wearing "I belong with these people" on your body. Not necessary but meaningful. Not exactly the same as a logo t-shirt today, but the direction rhymes. The urge to mark yourself. So one interpretation goes like this: art may have come not only from scarcity, but from spare time and spare curiosity. Boredom moved the hand, and the hand made meaning. Not airtight proof, but a pretty compelling puzzle piece. Fast forward. About 40,000 years ago, Hohle Fels cave in Germany. A flute made from a vulture's wing bone. Imagine sound ringing inside an Ice Age European cave. Not just wine to pitch a human chose. Finger holes and all a real instrument. They weren't playing flute to solve hunger. After a full meal, or in the gaps between finding food, people likely played with sound. Play becoming skill. An idle brain looks for patterns. Beat, pitch, repetition. Music can look like the leftover of that pattern play. We can't claim boredom invented rhythm for sure, but without boredom, that play might have happened less. Empty time invites patterns. Picture a campfire. Watching flames, feeling time move. Imagining tomorrow might be different. On nights with no screen, the brain starts making its own content. Stories rise instead of scrolls. Boredom is also said to come from sensing that now isn't enough. Fill that blank with stories and you get seeds of myth, philosophy, and science. The power to believe in what you can't see or to design a better tomorrow. Boredom births questions, and questions grow the world. Scholars like Robin Dunbar have argued that a large share of human conversation, often cited around 2/3, is social talk. Gossip. Way more people talk than weather talk. Who's close to whom? Who's trustworthy? That information was survival too. Like monkeys grooming each other's fur, we managed relationships with words. Side chatter in gatherings with nothing else to do became glue for bonds and bigger groups. Gossip wasn't just wasted time, it may have been society's adhesive. Bored mouths building community. Shells, flutes, imagination, gossip. Feel how tiny boredom keeps scaling up towards civilization. From here, we come back to modern life. Full circle. Back to that smartphone from the start. Back to today, an age where smartphones erased room for boredom. Information overflows, but the mind gets busier. Cognitive overload. That opening "now what" might not have been free time at all. It might have been overheating. Beginning and end pointing at the same screen. Neuroscience talks about the default mode network, a circuit that lights up when you're not locked onto any task. It doesn't shut off when you stop working. It turns on when you rest. Zoning out is not the same as going offline. Self-reflection, empathy, creative connections, a lot of that is said to happen here. Daydreaming time might actually be working time. Ideas often show up in the shower or on a walk more than in a meeting room. That's the brain wiring connections on its own. Keep scrolling, and that circuit never gets a break. You're not feeling boredom, you're locking the door, boredom opens? Maybe that's why feeding yourself content still leaves you empty. Mouth busy, insides hollow. That spare time when ancient people strung shells and played bone flutes, maybe that was civilization's engine. Not only because they hunted hard, but because sometimes having nothing to do made them more human. Empty space making people more like people. So today, close one app and try getting bored on purpose. Boredom looks like waste, but sometimes it's the charging port for being human. The hint ancient people left is surprisingly simple. Let boredom back in.